There are streets in this world that a man walks not because he is going somewhere, but because he is carrying something he does not yet know how to put down. Every autumn, when the leaves turned and the air carried the first warning of winter, a man named Aldous appeared at the edge of a small town that had no reason to remember him. And yet, it always did. He walked the same road. He pushed open the same heavy oak door. He sat at the same corner table, the one by the cracked window where the draft always came in and nobody else ever wanted. The first time he came, it was the grandfather behind the counter, a man of few words who respected other men of few words. He asked no questions. He poured one bowl of the evening broth, onion, bone, a sprig of thyme, and left Aldous to his silence. The grandfather died in the winter. His son took over the inn. The son had seen Aldous before, as a child, watching from the staircase, so when the man appeared that autumn, the son simply nodded and set the bowl down without a word. Some rituals do not need to be explained to be inherited. By the time the granddaughter, a young woman named Lena, was old enough to work the counter, Aldous had become something between a ghost and a landmark, the kind of thing you grow up around and stop questioning. She never questioned him. For 3 years she served him in silence, the way her father had, the way his father had before him, until the 30th year. That night, the inn was empty. The rain had driven everyone home early, and the fire had burned down to its last ambitions. Lena stood behind the counter, watching him in the way you watch a thing you have always been curious about, but never dared to touch. Something about that night felt like a last page. She just felt it. She picked up a cloth, walked to his table, set down a second cup of tea he had not asked for, and she sat. Then she asked the question that 3 generations had managed not to ask.
Why do you always come back here? Every year, the same table, the same meal. You have been coming since before I was born. What is it about this place?
He did not answer immediately. He turned the cup slowly in his hands, those old, weathered hands that had clearly carried a great deal across a long life. When he finally spoke, his voice was not sad. It was careful, like a man lifting something fragile he had been holding for a very long time.
I proposed to a woman here, at this table, 30 years ago. She said no.
Lena waited, because some stories need the silence around them to breathe.
And you kept coming back because of her?
I kept coming back to make sure I was no longer angry at her.
He said it so simply, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world, to ask yourself, does it still burn? Am I still the man who could not forgive her for choosing her own life? Lena looked at his hands around the bowl. She thought about all the men who would have moved on.
And are you no longer angry?
He was quiet for so long that Lena thought he would not answer. Then, very slowly, he picked up his spoon. He took one mouthful of the broth, the same onion and bone and thyme, and he set the spoon down again. And when he looked up, not at her, but at the window, there was something different in his posture, something lighter.
She ordered this same meal the night I proposed, this exact broth. She ate it all before she answered me. I always thought that was cruel, that she could eat so calmly while I sat there waiting. I was furious about it for years.
He paused.
I have ordered this soup every year for 30 years, and for 29 of those years, I could not taste it. I was too angry. Every spoonful tasted like the moment she said no. This year, I can taste it.
He said it quietly, without drama, the way a man announces the end of a war that no one else knew was being fought. Lena said nothing. What do you say to that? Here was a man who had carried a silent fury for 3 decades, and he had known it was there. He had been honest enough with himself to keep returning to the source of it, year after year, until the day, this day, he left before sunrise, as he always had. But this time, there was no heaviness in the way he moved through the door, no sense of a man carrying something invisible and enormous out into the dark. Lena stood at the window and watched him disappear into the early mist. She turned back to his table. She cleared the bowl, and she found beside the empty cup a small thing she had never seen him leave before. In handwriting that was careful and slow and had clearly taken some thought, "Thank you for asking, kid." We talk about grief as though it is a river, something that moves, something that eventually reaches the sea and ends. Aldous knew time would not heal what honesty had not first acknowledged, so he came back, same chair, same meal, same question every year, with a spoon in his hand. Can you taste it yet? 30 years, 29 of them, nothing, just broth with the flavor of a wound. And then one rainy night, because a young woman asked a question everyone else was too polite to ask, he finally tasted the soup. Just the soup. He did not come back the following year. He did not need to.